because the question is, well, why are you Republican? And then all I do is lay down. These are the principles that I follow. And if I'm right, I think you're doing the same thing.
Hi, my name is Cindy Siegel. I'm the chairman of the Harris County Republican Party, and this is the podcast Leaders on the Right. And we're excited today because we have a new, this is his first term, state rep, District 127, which is up in the Humboldt, Kingwood area.
Northeast Harris County.
So, Charles Cunningham, we're excited to have you here. And I was reading some information that you retired, is that right, in 2022 from Centerpoint?
That's correct.
How long were you there?
39 years.
So you've been through some hurricanes, huh?
Yes. 1983, Alicia was my first hurricane, and it's almost August, so I'm a little nervous.
Yeah, you started sweating.
Yeah.
Well, I know you guys always, I will tell you, I've always thought the Centerpoint people were stellar people. It's a great company, and I think a lot of people don't realize how you go above and beyond the duty when we were without electricity and all that. So kudos to all the Centerpoint people watching. But anyway, so this was your first legislative session. Are we gonna have another one? Special session?
We will have another special session. We started out, in January with, with priorities and plans, and we were trying to get them across the line, and that May came so fast. We just left some stuff on the table. So, Governor called us back, wanted to address, compression. I mean, we did that. We wanted to add a little bit more. Didn't quite get that finished. Governor called us back again. He says, all right, bring me a tax plan. And we ended up bringing the plan that we actually had in January. So we got a little bit of everything. And we still did not finish the school the side of the equation there. So,
The school choice and
it's a little bit of the school ESAs, it's the allotments. I mean, we had a bill, and it's really just trying to get everybody on the same page. And when I say everybody, mostly us Republicans, can we come together and get something that's going to be good for all of Texas? And so we're hoping to have that accomplished. I'm hearing October. In the interim, the speaker has put together a 15 commission members to address school on the House side. And so I think their report is due mid-August. The report will be due, so they'll turn that into the speaker, brush it, clean it up, get with the governor, and then we'll see what happens from there.
So you talk about school and the education. Before you served in the state house, you were on Humboldt State, right?
I was on the school board.
So you wouldn't have been on the school board unless education and kids meant a lot to you. So how was the transition? I would assume that going into the state legislature, that one of your priorities would just naturally be education, having our kids educated better. And we just had Bridget Wade last week, HISD school board, and of course they're going through massive upheaval with TEA taking over. But what has surprised you, and is there anything from your experience as an Humboldt ISD member that you were like, I did this work at the local level, and now since I saw everything there, I want to carry it at the state level? Was there anything in particular, and what are the differences too between serving locally on a school board versus in the state house?
Well, the similarities are going to be policy, because it's all about policy. So you'll have really, your local policy and running the school board. What I found out, though, is actually the policy level at the state level is what drives everything. And so when I was on the school board, local school board, I was involved in, that aspect of it. I was also involved at the regional level. We had Region 4, which was over 50 school districts, and I was actually the president over that also. So we all kind of come together and try to talk about the issues that are facing public schools. And then, of course, at the state level, I was on the Texas Association of School Board. And if I would have stayed, I probably would have been president. But then I got called elsewhere, city council. But to just kind of answer it, I think really at the state level is where you can really do the best because you've got over 1,000 school districts, and not everybody's doing it the same way. But the whole idea is to make sure that we're educating our children. And one of the goals that I had, especially going to state, was what can we do? Because we've got good schools in Texas, and we've got some challenges. But being, you know, 40 out of, out of 50, being 40 is nothing to brag about.
Yeah.
And so, what can we do? And so, those are the challenges that we're looking at. You know, I'm a choice guy. I like all education. I like virtual. I like charter schools. I mean, we can use them all, and they all have their place, in our state. And so I think we should be leading the nation and not just kind of, you know, pulling up the rear.
So what would be your answer? Because I know that the Republicans have, and the governor has wanted school choice. And, you have the teachers unions who are not happy about that. And again, this is just what I read, and you know a lot more about it, having served on a school board and then now being in the state house. But how, I understand. I think that there's concerns from the funding side too, particularly the rural areas, that they're not going to have that. That the public schools are worried they're going to lose money. I mean, if I'm a parent out there and my child is in public school and maybe the school isn't that great, or maybe it is great, what's your answer? What's your reasoning of why I should support the idea of school choice?
Well, and well, when you look at it, it should be on the parent, and the parent should be asking themselves, "Am I getting the results that I need to be getting? It's going to be educating my child." And so you look and you ask that question, I'll fall back again. We've got some good schools here in Texas, but we can't toot our horn when we're bottom 40. And so, and can I get the results that are needed? When we actually look at it, most of the parents want choice, you know, but you ask the parent, choice means something different to each one. And I think that's where it comes up to us as legislators to actually present that. The governor needs to actually, when you say choice, what are you talking about, man? When you say parental empowerment, what do you mean? And we've kind of, started to define that a little more. We've kind of got some bills out there that are doing that. We're addressing special needs. We're addressing some of the choices for the parents. But looking forward, I think what the parent needs to know is, am I getting the proper education that I can actually say that's giving me the results? If I've got a school that's failing, a school that's failed maybe 7 straight years, I won't call any names. Uh, look low on us because not only the state, but even that school district has actually failed generations of kids. And Texas, what being the ninth, I mean, if we're looking at the ninth largest economy in the world, we've got businesses coming here. When businesses come here, they want kids that are educated. It's a shame if you get a kid there that can't read, get a kid that can't add. I mean, so these are the things that we look at. Education is the key. It's education, self-reliance, and entrepreneurship. These things is what drive us. This is what made Texas great.
So, we hear a lot about colleges, and I mean, I'm the product of, my parents were, my father served in World War II, and they both went a year or two. He went 1 year to college, and my mom 2 years before she followed him in service. But it was a big deal that he wanted all of his kids to get a college education, and he was proud that he was able to help them. But today, everything's so expensive for these colleges. And I know because I have a friend who works for HCC, and she talks about the 2 year programs that they have, and they can't get enough kids, and they have kids that can come out with a great career. is there a way to shift the mindset in terms of the education that there's not a one size fits all? And is that something you can do at a policy level at the state?
I think we're trying to address that, Cindy. I think don't quote me wrong on this bill, but I think HB 8 is one of the bills at a higher level education that's going to address two-year colleges and funding. And so we know that every child is not made for college. Trust me, my wife and I know because my son didn't make it. He went 2 years, then I had to give him a choice, because you're not wasting no more money.
Yeah.
So anyway, luckily for him, he landed over at Lee College, and they have a program, instrumentation, where they do a lot of work in the petrochemical area. And he ended up getting that 2-year degree in petrochemical. And then lo and behold, then he finally caught it. Learning is not that bad. And he went and got a 4-year degree. I mean, but it took time. But colleges that are, doing the vocations that we need electricians, we need plumbers, HVAC. These are the opportunities that we can, as we call partner workforce, that we can partner not only with our 2-year colleges, but partner with the businesses also. And there was another bill that we passed that allows, what it did is allow kids that are junior and seniors in the junior and senior years to go visit colleges. Well, we've added to that bill now, so kids that are junior and seniors can actually go visit businesses. And
That's great.
and then just kind of say, hey, this is something I might want to do because right now college is not for me. And so I think with us coming together at the state level, working with our businesses, local businesses here, finding out what is that we can do to keep attracting the kids to say, hey, we don't want to put the pressure on that you have to go to college. Go to college as my son did when you're ready. And so hopefully we can do that, continue to do that.
So when you started in January, have there been any initiatives that have been like, this is really what, if I can accomplish this, I'll feel like I had a real successful first year or just even your term?
Well, really, during the race, everybody says, these are my priorities. Mine were, and some of them were pretty lofty. I didn't know. I actually told a group of folks I'm going to go up to Austin. I'm going to kick tail. So I think somebody must have told them I was coming. So they said, "We'll fix that."
Yeah.
So no kicking, but I guess really, we continue to have flooding problems. Harvey that we had in 2017 just devastated, really, my area, Northeast Harris County.
Yeah, you Kingwood area, you guys were. Bel Air was
Yeah.
Bel Air was the same thing.
Yeah.
And and I still hear people that are still dealing with it.
Still
6 years later.
We're still dealing with it, and one of the things we needed was to continue to work on the San Jacinto River. There's issues all up and down the river. There's sand mining going on, which is affecting the drainage, the flow. We had our floodgates, those issues, and so when I met with most of the people with the city, met with them, met with the trying to think of the name of what we call it, River Authority, San Jacinto River Authority folks. That's what it was. Met with them and found out what some of the issues was. That immediately became priority number one. And we had a designation of about 50 million, supposedly. I mean, we just had to make sure. So my first day on the job after January 10th, second day, I've got the budget and I'm looking at the budget and all of a sudden I see, guess what? The money you thought you had is not there. It's been taken out. And so we had to go to work. And I say we, not only my team in Austin, but the team here, the grassroots folks here, and make sure that, we continue to let them know that, hey, we're here and we need help. And I tell you, Cindy, it did not happen until budget night is April 6th.
Close to tax season being
close to tax season, but April 6th is the day that when they tell you your rider didn't make it. And so they told me my rider didn't make it, and what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to go up to the mic and say, I moved to put my rider in section the level, you know, which is basically the trash can. I didn't do that. I didn't get up there. I didn't say it. And we continued to work, and it wasn't until May 24th,
Close to the end.
close to the end, that they said, all right, you guys got 50 million. And what that did open the door because we had people working from the federal level all the way down to the local level. And so, and the county level. Tom Ramsey was great. Dave Martin was great. Congressman Crenshaw. And so we worked on it. So we've got some funding now. We just need to start working on ways to continue to be proactive because the water in Lake Houston really serves a large part of Harris County. And so, you know, we need to maintain that infrastructure. I mean, the dam was built, what, in the 50s?
So this is like Houston, right? Where
Yeah,
we all
like
get our, we
where
get
we're all-
yeah,
Yeah,
our water
yeah,
source,
we all
our
get our
drinking
water source. We all get our water source. You know, there was a report that I read that, and I forget the year. I won't be here, but it says this area will have over 30 million people just in this area.
Wow.
And so we really need to be proactive in thinking, you know, water is a lifeline.
Without it.
Without
Yeah.
So, but to your point, though, I sort of didn't mean to go all the way around the
No,
world.
that's fine.
It was that was the number one project to make sure we continued that funding that we needed. So I was happy to get that, and everything else was just icing on the cake.
So, you know, I think back to when I was on Bel Air City Council. And so it was the mayor and 6 council members. So I was told when I first got on, Cindy, you've got to get 3 more votes or it's going to be a long 4 years. And so I think getting 4 votes, I don't remember how many people were like on Humble ISD, but
Yes,
that's
sir.
that's a lot easier. I mean, in some respects, sometimes it can be harder, but it's a lot easier, I would assume, than how many people are in the House, you know, how many votes did you have to get something through? So how do you get the votes to do something like what you did?
Well, it all comes down to relationships and having a good relationship. And really, it's not only the 150 in the House that you only need at least 75, 76. There's 150 of them so you can pass. But getting it out of committee, that I mean, I didn't realize, Cindy, that you know the system is actually designed to impede, you know, the movement of a bill. I mean, you have your bill, you have your first read, it gets assigned to a committee. Then you have to hope that the committee chair wants to hear it. Because if he doesn't, then it just dies in committee. If he does hear it, then you have to make sure that, you know, don't have too many changes, amendments to it or whatever. And then hopefully it gets a vote. And committees vary. Committees are 9, 13, or whatever, so you want a majority of your committees. I think my bill actually got out 9-4, which
That sounds good.
which was good, right?
Yeah.
And so once you get out of committee, then it goes to another hurdle called calendars. And so you have to have a good relationship to make sure that chairman is going to put your bill on the calendar so it can get heard on the floor. To have that first, that first real vote to see if you can get it there. And once you get it to that vote, it's the third vote, and if you pass, then guess what? You got it out of the House. But then there's one more thing. You got to go through the same process in the Senate. And so,
Yeah.
find a sponsor and go through the same process. And if you're lucky, it passes. You get it signed by both the lieutenant governor and speaker, and you send it to the governor. If not, if there's some differences between both the chambers, you have a conference committee, and I had about 2 of them on 2 of my bills. You work out those differences, get it signed by both of the leadership, and send it on to the governor.
Well, and I'll tell you, this session, I was a lot more involved with the election integrity bills in terms of going and testifying both the Senate and the House. And kudos to our Harris County, our Houston delegation, both on the Senate and on the House side, because they were really, you guys took a lot of our bills, and maybe it wasn't everything I wanted or we wanted,
Right.
but I think you did a lot to move election integrity forward to secure our elections. But that said, I hear a lot, as the chair of the Republican Party, I hear from people, and not even just being the chair of the party, you hear that, oh, they go to Austin or they go to Washington and they forget about us and they never do anything. How do you communicate back to your constituents this, what really is, and it was eye-opening for me, how complicated a process, like you said, it's not just getting 3 other votes. You have to get X, and then you got to move to the Senate side, and then you got to hope the governor signs it. How do you communicate that to your constituents?
You know, what I was fortunate to do, and early on, since I didn't have, all I had was a primary. And so I had all that time to actually, you know, find, put together staff, put together a plan on how I could, you know, stay in touch with everybody back home. So what we ended up doing, I think, since January, right in February, I had already started sending out newsletters, and so I connected well with, you know, with our folks back home, Kingwood Tea Party, Kingwood Republican women. We just all stayed in contact. They made sure they came and stayed in contact with me. They were up there almost looked like every other week. I had so many.
Living up there where you were?
Well, basically, and I was having all the cookies I wanted. They no way, but
All your offices up there are filled with cookies and candy.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you don't all gain like 30 pounds.
Well, yeah, I did, but but I tell you what really helps with them also keeping in contact. I had good relationships with my predecessor, and so that was good. So we were able to keep in contact, and then on top of that, I was able to have my wife up there with me, and so that made it even better because you know there are not every day is not a good day. You know, every day there's some frustrations, and so just to have her there, that was good. And of course, she was with the legislative wise, and so all of that just kind of came together, and it was almost like when I did come home for just a little while, everybody kind of knew what was going on, where were we at, and then when we did sound the alarm, especially for our flood money, we had everybody that was writing letters, so we had that grassroots support. So
Grassroots can move the
it's
needle.
key. It's key.
I mean, I'll say that I can remember when you have, in our case, the city council, council chambers is packed full of citizens who are very concerned. You tend to pay attention versus if they don't show up and you only have 2 people, you think they don't care about it.
Right.
Was there anything in particular that you wish would have happened or you were disappointed about? I mean, like the process or something you thought should have gotten through?
Well, I had 2 bills that were high on my list, and I think you guys knew about one of them. It's the minimum bond act.
Yeah.
It never got a hearing. I did have another bill, evidentiary bill, to basically speed the process along and have people that are guilty just go ahead and plead out, and we can just do away with the evidence, preservation
Right.
of evidence. It got a subcommittee hearing, just basically put it in the trash can. So that didn't get heard. And then there was one other bill that didn't get heard. I can't call it what I'm saying, but yeah, those were kind of disappointments. But you had to understand uh, those committee chairs are powerful, and so you have to ask, and you know, and so hopefully moving forward. I just was told that the natural resource chairman is not running, and so hopefully the vice president, who's Republican, will get put in that slot, and that will really hopefully open up things, especially for us to deal with all of our water issues throughout the South.
So if I understand or looking at it, you're the only Black state rep up in Austin. Is that right?
Now,
Republican.
yeah, right now,
So how was that? I mean, I think a lot of people, um, and I want to know your experience, because I hear from my friends who are Black and conservative, or and I've heard and not just Black, but it's there's a tendency to stereotype, and I've heard that it's like, well, you can't be a Republican, you're Black, you're supposed to be Democrat. Do you get pushback? I mean, how is it being a Black conservative serving up in Austin? Is there a difference or?
I, you know, I with me myself, I don't think there's a difference because I know who I am and I know what I believe in. You know, how I was raised, you know, I was raised that education is important, self-reliance, and entrepreneurship. You know, those are some basic things that we as a society should, should strive for. And then, of course, what is government? You know, government should be simple, as I tell everybody. Three things government should do: protect, punish, and promote.
That's a good analogy.
And so, I mean, and if you're doing those things, I mean, then it can apply, all of it down the spectrum. It can apply on city council, school board, with protecting, punishing, and promoting. And then that promoting is where we kind of get it mixed up because, it's a hand up and not a hand out.
Yeah.
And so, when they say you're a Black Republican, and really, I had a lot of Democrats that came up and says, "Well, I'm kind of conservative." I don't know if they looked at me and said, "Well, maybe it does work," but yeah, I mean, before I was there, there was I think Sherry Carter out of Dallas. She was there back in 2012. James White, who was here in Harris County, we did a lot of stuff together. Then he moved on. I mean, he had just retired, so I was hoping that he was going to be there. But yeah, I was the lone African American that was Black and happened to be a Republican, and I got the you know good vibes from a lot of the Republicans. One thing that I wanted to do that and I did succeed in doing was to be about business. You know, I didn't need to be on the back mic. Try to make sure that I vote my district and support my district. And so today, when I've had so many people, African Americans, come up to me and says, "Hey, I'm conservative." We talked earlier. You never know when somebody's looking at you. So you call yourself a conservative. Well, they're watching. What does that mean? And so I look at them and I tell them, I says, "Look, I'm a spiritual guy. Been a deacon in the church for 4 years. I try to live the life that the word tells me to live. And so when you live that, that's pretty much based on not only America, but it's based on being a conservative." And so,
Well, do you think, you know, there's there's so much partisanship today, and it's like, you're either with me or you're against me. And I think a lot of people lose hope. Um, and do you think that there's a path forward? I guess the question, it's not either a black or white issue. It's just, you know, Democrats and Republicans. We used to talk about the silent majority.
right.
Now it seems like there's one side or the other side. Is there still a silent majority that are made up of people that are just out there working, wanting to provide for their family? And truthfully, you see it in Harris County because over half the people, the registered voters, are independents. They haven't voted in one party or the other.
Right. And that's why I was going to ask you a question. I still think that there is a silent majority out there. And I think that there's actually more people that are independent than you think. I actually think that there are some folks that actually do. And I think once we have what we call this closed primary, I think people really want to just kind of vote for people they like. They actually like, some Republicans, but for some reason, they're, I don't know, scared to, but they just want to, come to a Republican primary. Now, I've been able to have a few come over, especially people in my church. Once they find out, because the question is, well, why are you Republican? And then all I do is lay down, these are the principles that I follow. And if I'm right, I think you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And so, so I've had that success. I mean, it was successful for me when I was on school board. Same thing when I was on city council. I mean, so people get to know you and get to understand exactly what you stand for. And as I said, they're always watching you, even if you don't think they are. People are watching you. But to your point, I still think it's a solid majority. I think it would be our job as Republicans to show them what we are really about, and we're not about always, the hate thing. You know, I became a Republican. It was really during Ronald Reagan. I remember when he ran, he says, "Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?" And then I remember watching some of his press conferences. We had the high inflation,
He took over at a tough time.
yeah, tough time. And then I looked at, when he said, well, there's plenty of jobs out there. I read in the paper, and I see all these jobs out here. And so, you look at that, and then you fast forward and look at today, and we ask the same thing: are we better off now than we were 40 years ago? And so we know the issues that we're facing now. I mean, here in Harris County alone, you know, we've got to have law enforcement. We got to stop the revolving door. These things. So you have to stand up, speak out, and hopefully that's where we're going to get the solid majority. But we continue to stand up and speak out to the things that are wrong.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you talk about the revolving door and the crime, and I've used the last couple of years, when I talk to groups, I said, really, as conservatives, as Republicans, what are we talking about? And I think sometimes I believe our values are right and our public policy. Sometimes we don't get it right, but a lot of times we do. But like I talk about, yeah, we're for men and women blue. We stand for law and order. But really, to me, as a mother and as a citizen, someone who lives, in Houston, Bel Air, but in Harris County and with the growing crime, it's about all of our families being safe. It shouldn't matter where you live in Houston.
Right.
You can live in Bel Air, you can live up in Kingwood, you can live in the 5th Ward. It shouldn't matter. Your kids should be safe. Your son should be able to bike 4 or 5 blocks to school or the swimming pool or see a friend. Or my millennial daughter should be able to go out,
Right.
have dinner and drinks with their girlfriends, or my husband go to an ATM machine.
And be safe.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. So if hopefully you'll have a long career at state legislature. Who knows? You're still young or youngish. But
Remember, I was planning on retiring.
I've been there before. But when it's all said and done, what do you want? What do you want to be? What do you want your kids or your grandkids or people to say? What was your mark?
And simple, he left it better than he found it. And I think that's what we all want to do. Those of us in leadership, just like you and how you're looking at the party and stuff, we want to leave it better than we found it. And I think that just keeps it going for the next generation. What we do.
Well, I appreciate it, Charles. Thank you, State Rep
All
and
right.
Camp, and good luck. And
Thank you.
hopefully it won't be a whole year long full of special sessions, but we wish you luck, and we do appreciate your service.
Well, no, thank you. And we've been in Harris County for 40 years, my wife and I, and I've been tied to the Republican Party ever since. So.
And we do pray for no more hurricanes, at least not for a few years, so you can get your projects done.
There you go. Thank
I
you.
hope you'll join us in another week at our next podcast of Leaders on the Right. Thank you.